always say there are three things that are assured in life, and that's death, taxes, and a liberal government that breaks his promises. Yeah, here. The member opposite says. 6 months ago, the Liberals stood here and told Canadians to trust them just one more time. They promised lower spending, lower costs, and to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. They said they had heard Canadians loud and clear. They said they finally understood the pain that they had caused. It's like a toxic ex. They said that things this time would be different. And every single one of those promises, their record is nothing but failure, total, utter failure. Every single one of them. This House passed a budget with a record $78 billion deficit. That's more than twice the size of the one that Justin Trudeau wanted to run years ago. And that's a tiny change. It's not a tiny change, I should say. It's not a rounding error. It's billions and billions of dollars. And if anybody thinks the Liberals are going to stop at $78 billion, well, then I have a bridge to sell them. And I think the Parliamentary Budget Officer would also have something to say to that, too. In fact, he said the chances of them, of their out-of-control spending being less than $78 billion was less than 10%. If someone told you there was less than 10% chance of you being able to start your car in the morning, you would get a new car. Or if there was less than a 10% chance that you would pass a math test, you would get a tutor. But when we learn that the chances are less than 10% that this government shows just a little bit of fiscal restraint or fiscal discipline, the Liberals will tell that budget officer that he's likely going to be out of a job for telling the truth. And here's what else he had to say, just so I can remind everybody watching. He said the spending is, quote, shocking, stupefying, and unsustainable. And he's a neutral, nonpartisan appointee of this place. He was put in by this very government. The office was put in by the very government, I should say. The government is dropping $90 billion in new spending onto the books, and that's over $5,000 for every single household in Canada. That's money taken directly out of the pockets of Canadian families and seniors through higher taxes, through higher inflation, and through higher interest rates. And why talk about that? We already spend more on the debt than this country spends on transfers to the provinces for health care, or every dollar that is collected in GST, meaning that every dollar that's collected on the sales tax in this country doesn't go to doctors, and it doesn't go to nurses, and it doesn't go to hospital capacity. It goes to bankers, and it goes to bondholders to pay for their addiction to spending. If you think Justin Trudeau's continuing gift to you and your family is fiscal responsibility, then this guy should just say, hold my beer. You keep paying for his irresponsible spending at $5,000 a pop per household. And it's only going to get worse. This Prime Minister and his Finance Minister continue to run debt on the taxpayer credit card. They're effectively sinking the next generation. I'll have much more to say about the budget because I think it's wrong and it's dangerous for so many reasons. But we're here today to continue this debate on affordability. So let's talk about what the government is doing on affordability, or rather, what the government is doing to affordability. All you have to look at is the lineups in every major city at food banks, in every small town. 2 million people in this country are now visiting a food bank every single month. It's 4 million people in Toronto. In the span of 1 year alone, 1 in 5 people are now skipping meals. They're skipping meals to make that food last longer. It's not just about numbers, it's about the people behind the numbers. The kid that goes to school every single day on an empty stomach can't learn and grow. It's the college-educated worker who, despite working a full-time job, he still finds himself or herself at the end of the month with not enough to pay the bills. It's a senior citizen who, after years of sacrificing and saving, has to make the choice between heating her home or having a hot lunch. These are the stories that we hear in our neighborhoods every single day, and all of this is happening in Canada. This is the country that is supposed to be one of the richest in the world. And it's the Prime Minister's response that is the most troubling, because it's not compassion for him. For him, inflation is something that happens to other people. The response from Ottawa has been textbook on this. Another government program, like some form of, some version of central planning that will make this problem go away, not to actually solve the problem. It's more spending. It's a central bank economist that somehow missed that class that taught you that an increase in money supply in this country leads to inflation. Whatever you want to call it, it is spending, whether they call it investment or by any other name. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing, and it costs every single family more than $5,000 in this country. So for the small amount of tax cut that they get, and believe me, we're not going to stand here and oppose a tax cut, but if you're giving somebody a small tax cut and then on the other end, you're going to charge them $5,000 for your irresponsible spending, Canadians are going to have a lot of questions, and that's exactly what we're here to do. 1 + 1 never equals 2 with this government. It's keeping in place things like the Liberal taxes on food that make life more expensive while denying that they exist. It would be only Liberals that deny the industrial carbon tax on a farmer that grows food. It would be Liberals who deny a fuel standard on a trucker who ships food. It would only be Liberals that deny a packaging tax on the people that sell food. And it would only be Liberals that stand in this House every single day and deny that the person who is buying food is now paying more for it because of their taxes. The Liberals say that they're going to cut taxes in this bill, but you got to read the fine print. The tax cut adds up to $90 a year for an average Canadian. $90 of savings. But the $5,000, the more than $5,000 they're going to be spending because of this Liberals' irresponsible budget really wipes out that $90 a month. So who really comes out on top is the question. So when you go to a casino in Las Vegas, and I'm sure there's some people who are watching at home that have been to a casino in Las Vegas, the house always wins. Eventually, the house wins. And when you live in Canada, it's starting to feel like the government always wins and Canadians always lose. Because the $90 that they give you a month is wiped out entirely by the irresponsible inflationary spending of their massive deficits that they're running. Deficits that they promised that they would keep down $16 billion less than what they put on the table. Deficits that are bigger than Justin Trudeau's deficits. Deficits that are the biggest in this country other than COVID. So instead of more of this, the bait and switch that we continue to see, here's what I think common sense would dictate that we should do. Let's cut income taxes for real. Not by $90, but by hundreds of dollars a year per Canadian, by thousands of dollars a year for every Canadian, so that families can actually get relief and get ahead. Let's cut taxes on home building so that young people can finally afford a home in this country. Let's cut the carbon tax in all of its forms, in the industrial carbon tax, the hidden taxes on food, the plastics ban, the fuel standard, making growing, shipping, and selling food more expensive. Let's cut all of those taxes. Let's not say that these taxes are imaginary, because for millions of families across the country, and if you've been in the neighborhood and if you've been to your grocery store, which the Prime Minister hasn't been to, you would know that Canadians are paying more this year than they were last year. They were paying more last year than they were paying the year before. And that is a shame in this country, because it is their taxes that are increasing the price of food. Every Canadian who cannot make ends meet right now should know that their tax dollars are being spent responsibly in Ottawa. The government doesn't have money. They can only tax you to get more of it. And when they spend it irresponsibly, it's going to cost Canadians' family more than $5,000 a year. And everybody should know that.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Québec.
The honourable member for Quebec Centre.
Thank you. I listened with some attention to the speech, and I wonder how someone from the Conservative Party could vote against a bill that reduces taxes, middle-income taxes, for 22 million Canadians. How is that possible? How is it possible that, given her speech, where she says that she wants taxes on new homes for new buyers to be removed. That's exactly what this bill does. How can she vote against such a bill?
Full member for Thornhill.
Speaker, they needed us to get to this point in the debate. I don't know if the member is new here, but we would never oppose tax cuts. What we are saying, though, is that the $90 that they're giving Canadians is wiped out immediately by the $5,000 that they are piling on every single Canadian family. So I'm not sure how that member sits with that government and votes for that.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de répondre.
The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois fully supports the second part of the bill, including with the GST cut for new buyers. We don't think this goes far enough, because when we look at what's really preventing people from accessing property, it's that it can be hard for them to save up a deposit. And also the fact that home prices and rents are skyrocketing. So it's hard to save for a deposit. So we have two specific suggestions in the Bloc Québécois. One of them would be that parents could use the RESP to access property. That would be a zero-cost measure. And the other one would be a no-interest loan for first-time homebuyers. That would cost almost nothing. So I'd like to hear what my honourable colleague thinks of those ideas.
Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, I just want to say that home ownership in this country didn't used to be a distant dream for so many Canadians. And today, there are 8 out of 9 young people that do not believe that they will ever own a home in this country. We brought forward solutions in the Conservative platform to which they made some promises on housing. They delivered 1 out of the 3 promises, and probably the one that affects home buyers the least. Their solution to housing in this country is to build yet a 4th bureaucracy at $13 billion to build even less homes than we've had in this country. Housing starts in every single city are down this month, and year over year they will continue to go down because of more bureaucracy and less tax cuts on housing.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague and friend for that wonderful speech. And I'm sure, like herself, many of us were back in our ridings and talking to people, and affordability comes up almost in every conversation, whether it's the cost at the grocery stores, the cost of rent, the cost of filling your tank. And Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Liberals are not getting that same feedback, or they're just so out of touch. Because when I talk to people when they go to the grocery store, they literally look at stuff on the shelf, and then they have to put it back because they don't have enough money at the end of the month. So the paychecks are not going as far as they used to. And we've seen in the Quality of Life Index, Canada's went from 7th to 25th in the world when it comes to Quality of Life Index. Everything has got worse over the last 10 years. This wasn't the case before 2015, and it won't be the case after. Can she have some feedback from what her riding was saying to her this past week?
Honourable member for Thornhill.
I thank my friend for that question. You know, I wanted to test this out. I was at home in my riding, and like a lot of my other colleagues, I hear the same questions about affordability and the fact that Canadians are just getting sacked with higher grocery prices, higher prices on homes, on gas. And so I tried an experiment. You know, I went to a grocery store in a riding represented by a Liberal right next door to mine, and lo and behold, I heard the exact same conversations. The exact same people came up to me, or people in that grocery store came up to me, and they also told me about the taxes on food, the unaffordable housing, the unaffordable gas and groceries and home heating. So it turns out that they are hearing that from their constituents. It's just that they're not doing anything about it.